Everyone.
Yeah, and as much behind the scenes as you can capture, that'd be great for documenting the experience. Like pictures of us, pictures of her, pictures of the video setup.
When you're ready.
So how far should I? Because I'm gonna the
Go
slates.
back. Go all the way to the end. Yeah.
So I should sit this way?
Oh no, we're not gonna talk. I'm just gonna show the slate. That's all.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything.
So move more into. Yeah. I don't see your face all the way, but.
Oh.
Now I do.
You're talking about the camera? Or the
Yeah. The camera.
Okay, so I'm ready to read it.
Go ahead.
I just want to. Okay, cool. It is January 7th, 2024. The interviewee is Eja Igus. The interviewers are Devin Lefkowitz and Jacob Fink. The location is Roslyn, New York, USA, and the language that the interview will be conducted in is English. Is that me?
What
No idea.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see anything.
I don't know what that was.
That was, I think, the picture
Oh,
of
Oh,
something
that's-
signs.
Do you want to pick that back up? I don't know.
I don't see it. So.
That
No,
No.
sorry.
You stay. Leave it there. It's fine. I don't see it in the shot anyway. Okay. We are good on our cameras. You can sit down and do them.
And you were able to see the slate clearly and everything?
Yeah. And we can always do it again at the end. Can I just grab that coffee from you before we start?
Oh, sure.
That right there. No, not that one. That one. Yep. Right there. Thanks. That way I don't have to bother you in the middle of the interview, and we are good to go.
And we don't even need any mics to ask the questions?
No.
Okay,
Just
cool.
talk loud enough. That's all. So
Alright, cool. Is it rolling and everything?
we're rolling.
Alright. So, please state your name and could you spell it?
My first name?
Yeah.
Edzia, Edzia.
And your last name?
Eiges.
Okay, great. And what was your name at birth? Was it different?
No.
And did you have any nicknames as a child?
No.
When were you born?
I was born March 24, 29.
And in which town did you grow up?
Lodz,
And in what country is that?
Poland.
And could you spell Lodz, Poland?
Yes. Lodz.
And then, what is your current age?
What's my current age?
Yes.
95. 94.
94.
I'm Russian.
And could you describe what your grandparents were like? Like-
Yes. I only had grandmothers.
Mhm.
My father's mother was a widow, and she had 5 children, and she worked. She became a widow. She opened up a grocery store, and she had a daughter that also was widowed. So they both ran a grocery store. And the grocery store was in Lodz, and I remember the address.
What was it?
Lutomierska, 10, I think so, Lutomierska, just Lutomierska. But then I forgot the number of the building.
Was that close to where you lived? Did you see them often?
Yes, I used to see him often.
And were they originally from Poland?
Yes, yes.
And were they also Jewish?
They were what?
Were they also Jewish?
Yes.
Okay. And what about your parents?
My parents,
Yeah.
what I know of, my parents were born in Lodz.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother, I know that she was born in 1900.
Mm-hmm.
My father was born, He was 5 years older than her, or 6 years older than her. So what year does it make it?
1894 or 5.
And what were their names?
My mother's name in Polish was Regina,
Mhm.
and my father's name was Abraham.
And what sort of education did they have?
I know my mother had public school, and my father had public school, but I don't know. And you know, they went to Jewish school, so I don't know their education. I don't remember.
And what were the occupations of your mother and father?
My mother had an occupation. She was like a weaver when there was. Lodz was a city of textile, and if the fabric came through with a hole or something, she was able to weave in the hole, and she had her own business when she was older. She got older. She ran her own business. My father was in textile business. It was maybe export.
Was that a popular industry to be working in?
Yes.
And what is a strong memory that you have of your mother and father?
My father had a factory very close to where we lived, and he had about 6, 7 machines, and he had that operators on the machine, and then he had women, about 8 or 9 women that worked. They do the handwork. You know, they were finishers. Let me put it this way.
And were you inspired to work in the textiles industry because your
No.
parents worked there?
No.
Did you have any aspirations to work
Yes.
any sort of job?
Yes. I wanted to be a designer in hats. That was my dream. A hat designer.
And then, how did your parents meet?
I have no idea.
And then, how about your siblings?
My sibling. Okay, I had an older sister that was 2.5 years older than me, and then I have a brother that was 7 years younger than me.
Were you closer with your sister or your brother?
I was close with both of them.
Closer. And then, what were their names?
My sister's name was Luba, Luba, and my brother's name was Leonard.
And then, what were they like? What sort of characteristics did they have?
Pardon me?
What sort of characteristics did they have?
Honestly, I don't know because he was a baby. And my sister, you know, we were very young when the war broke out. I don't know what my sister wanted to be. I know what I wanted to be.
And do you have any particularly fond memories with your siblings?
Yes.
What were they?
Well, in the summer we used to go away for the summer, so we used to spend it on a farm, and we used to go picking apples, picking cherries, looking at cows and horses.
Did you go on trips often as a kid?
I never went on a trip without my parents.
So you had a close family?
Yes.
Did you go anywhere with your parents? Sorry, did you go anywhere with your parents? Did you take any trips with your parents?
No.
What was your home like?
My home life was very good.
What kind of home did you live in?
I don't know, we had a very happy home.
Was it a house or an apartment?
We lived in an apartment.
What was your neighborhood like?
I lived in a mixed neighborhood. Was Jewish and Polish. Christian rather.
How would you describe your family's social status?
You know, I don't hear you well.
How would you describe your family's social class?
My father belonged always to the workman's circle. He was a leader in that, and my mother she was a housewife. I really have no knowledge of anything else. I don't remember.
Was Jewish ritual a major part of your life?
Was Jewish?
Ritual, a major part of your life?
Yes, I was brought up to be very Jewish.
What was your favorite holiday?
Passover.
Why?
We got new clothes for Passover. We got new shoes, new clothing. That was the height of the festivity.
Did it make you feel better that there were a lot of Jews in your community? Did you feel more comfortable?
I was comfortable with both. I was comfortable.
Were you aware at the time that Jews were a minority?
Yes.
Why were you aware?
Why was I aware? When we walked in the street, we usually were a little bit nicer dressed and all that, and they recognized that as being Jewish. And most of my friends were Jewish because I didn't realize that I went to school only with Jews. We went to school 6 days a week, and we were off on Saturday. And the Gentile went to school also 6 days a week, and they were off on Sunday. And I didn't even realize that I went to a school that was segregated. Only Jews went to that school, only Jewish children.
Could you always tell who was Jewish and who was not Jewish?
I always felt Jewish because the Gentile always brought it up that you are Jew.
Did you always know when another person was Jewish and when they were not Jewish?
Yes, but there was something about us that we recognized each other.
And was your school, being a Jewish school, was it a private school or a public school?
It's public school.
Public.
What did you do in your free time?
I was a kid, I played. We played ball, we played, what do you call it, Shakovka, you know, the big ball, what do you call it, a lot, what is it?
Volleyball?
Volleyball, we played, what do you call it,
Racquetball? Pickleball?
racquetball, and there were all kinds of things that we played. That way I had a very normal childhood before the war.
Did you experience any anti-Semitism?
Yes.
What events?
Well, they always let us know that we're Jewish and we killed Christ. And that was something that was unforgiven.
The people who let you know, these were children or adults?
Both.
Were you aware of the rise of anti-Semitism broadly at that time?
We were always aware because there were streets that where I live particularly, there was a street and there was a cross, and beyond that cross, no Jew walked over. It was about 2 blocks from where I lived, and it was predominantly Gentile.
What would have happened if a Jew had crossed?
You would be kidnapped. If I was Jewish, could be beaten up, I could be killed, and nobody would know.
And did anybody ever speak up for the Jews?
Yes,
Who?
but to no avail. You know, there were Jewish organizations. You know, when, of course, I started going to that in the ghetto, when I was already in the ghetto, but there were all kind of Jewish Zionistic organization. But I cannot give you anything that I don't know because I was too young.
Were you aware of the invasion of Poland?
Was I aware? I was there when the Germans walked into Poland. I was in the street, and where we lived in, as I lodge had a lot of German Volksdeutschen, they called them, and they were greeting them, and we were very careful when, you know, we were quiet.
Did you know about the rise of the Third Reich in Germany before they invaded Poland?
There were papers. My father read 3 papers. They always had 3 papers in the apartment, and we used to read it. What I understood, I did understand. The only thing, and then there was on the radio, the vice president said that if Russia should attack us at the same time, this was before, the same time the German will attack us, we will be the mouse and they're gonna be the cat. I remember in Polish it comes out better, that they're gonna swallow us right away. We'll have nothing.
Did that make you scared?
Yes.
Do you remember the names of the newspapers by chance?
Yes. There was Rich Migły, and one was Rich Migły was that time, and the other one was with the P. I don't remember. It might come to me tonight.
The phrase that you said earlier about the cat and the mouse, can you say it in Polish?
Can I say it in Polish? Yes. Would you want me to say it in Polish?
Yes.
How should I phrase it? Let me see. I think now in English. It's funny. Jak Russia przyjdzie and Germany was and Germania przyjdzie, oni zjadą nas jak mysz kota. That's the best I could do.
Did you speak Polish at home when you were a child?
Yes,
Did you speak any Yiddish?
yes. I had grandmothers. I had to speak Yiddish to them. One of my father's mother would not acknowledge me if I spoke Polish.
were the newspapers the first sign of danger? Was the
The
invasion?
newspaper was for about a couple of months. It was not good news.
Did you anticipate that it would result in a war?
Yes.
You said that you were there when the invasion happened. What did you witness that told you that the invasion was going on?
When they came in, what I witnessed, when they came to lodge, I witnessed that they were in automobiles and trucks, and they were on not motorcycles, and they will look very, very mighty, very, very strong.
Did they use any weapons during
No.
the invasion?
No, when they invaded, no.
How many, maybe around how many military invaded Poland from Germany?
I don't know, but it seems like an awful lot.
I want to ask a question just because I think that there's something visual here that you can give them that you brought up. You brought up when the Germans came into Lodz, how everybody was lining the streets.
Yes.
I remember seeing video of it one time, and people were throwing flowers and all types of stuff. Can you Can you tell him?
Because what I am telling, that we had so many Volkszeichen that they celebrated them, that they came in, they took over Poland. For them, it was a celebration.
But how did that make you feel?
How it make me feel very sad. I knew that it's gonna be very bad.
Do you remember any conversations you had that day with your family or any other Jewish friends?
We were all, we went home, and we all knew that it's not gonna be good, because we already had a lot of things we knew out of Germany, what happened Austria, Germany, what happened to the Jews. And a lot of the Jews from Austria and Germany were brought into Lodz, because they got rid of them from Germany, and they came into Lodz. And we had, as a matter of fact, my father had a hand in it. We had plenty of places for them to go. They came into families, they came into, they just came in, they had no choice. And they became part of the Jews.
Did you know of any Jews who left Lodz or tried to leave Lodz?
Well, yes. When they came in, there was a time that a lot of the men took off and started walking towards Russia. A lot of them made it into Russia, and don't forget, it was September, and by September, October, it gets already very cold, and a lot of them made it, and a lot of them froze. We had very bad regards from the people. A lot of the children, they died on the way, and the Ukrainian were even more anti-Semitic than the Polacks.
How did you learn this?
Pardon me?
How did you learn about these events?
Well, through people, For a few months, we also see I don't want to jump ahead.
What did you anticipate as a child was going to happen after the invasion?
How to survive? Simple. I still was with my family. My father got a lot of work, so we got a lot of things, food and things. We were a little bit better off than most of them. And it so happens where they made the ghetto, the building that we lived in, the street was part of the ghetto, so we didn't have to move.
What-
So that made it much easier. We didn't have to, take the bundles and leave everything and move someplace else. So we stayed in the same apartment.
What initially made you aware that the ghetto was being established?
Soon as they came in, and they came in September, October. By November, what I remember, they already started taking out the people from the main streets and put them into where the ghetto's gonna be. They uprooted them, and there was very little room, so a lot of people had to take in other people to live with them, because at first there was no room.
Just to clarify, what year did the invasion occur?
39.
And how old were you in 39?
In 39 I was 10.
What were your feelings about the establishment of the ghetto?
What was my feelings? Very bad, because a lot of people were coming in, and it already started snowing and raining, and they had no place to go, and right away there was very little food, and things were very bad. People were already living in the street. So, it's not the feelings, it's you become very insecure. You think, what's gonna happen to me?
Were there any stories of your parents helping other refugee Jews?
Yes, my father was helping the German Jews that came in from Germany. He tried to settle them in. And he opened up some soup kitchens.
What did your parents tell you about what was going on?
My parents didn't have to tell me anything. It was very visual.
What were the immediate effects of what was the first thing you noticed about the invasion? Did certain assets become German assets that were once Polish assets?
I don't understand the question, to be honest with you.
Did the Germans take anything?
They what they did is threw out the people from we had a street, it was a main street. It called Piotrkowska ulica. What they did at first, as a matter of fact, my mother's partner, when she was in business, lived there. And when they opened the door, they knocked on the door, they opened the door, and they said, "Where's the man?" And when the men showed up, they right away killed him. there was no question who he is, what he is. They killed the First Amendment. That was the first thing that they did it. And it so happens I was in the street and she was walking. She had one child. She was walking with the child, and she told me about it. That they just killed her husband. They threw her out from the apartment. This was the first major thing.
Do you remember what their uniforms looked like? The
Yes.
German military?
Yes,
Could you describe it?
yes, gray green.
Did they have any logos on it?
They did, but you were never that close to them. And also, when they came in, they really didn't know who's a Jew, who isn't a Jew. So unfortunately, the Polacks showed them who's a Jew, and whoever was a Jew is not supposed to walk on the sidewalk. We walked in the street, like where you know, the horses, the trolley car, whatever.
Did you have any idea as a child about why they were doing these things?
Yes, I was told because I'm a Jew.
Did you have any idea of why they wanted to do these things to Jews?
To be honest with you, we didn't. The only thought we had is how to survive. We didn't analyze anything. I'm talking about myself. I didn't analyze. I wanted to know if I'm gonna have tomorrow what to eat, and I'm gonna have a bed where to sleep, because everything else becomes you don't dream about anything. You only look. The main thing is the survival. You're gonna survive, and I also tell you things not as an adult. I tell you when I was a child. So I don't know what somebody that was more mature than I didn't have the maturity probably yet.
Were you surprised that the Polish people were helping the Germans?
No, not at all, because the anti-Semitism was so bad that it was just terrible. I don't know if I should jump the gun. We were still in school. This was actually before the war. Not too far from our neighborhood, they built a new school. And that school incorporated public school and high school. And everything was very modern. And they built a swimming pool in that school. For Poland, from the 30s, this was something big. So one of the teachers said to us, she's gonna take us to see the school on how do you call it, on an outing. So, and the teacher herself was not Jewish. Because in school we had teachers that was Jewish and not Jewish, though it was segregated. So she took us on an outing and we walked and we came to the school. What do you think happened? The Polish kids waited for us and they started beating us up. And even the teacher started crying and she wanted help. And she said to us, just run whatever you can. And we did run. Some of us got beaten up. So that's where we lived in a country. After that, what else can I tell you?
Did you say that the teacher was or was not Jewish?
She was not Jewish.
So you felt a sense of sympathy from her?
Yes, but she was afraid for her own life because she tried to protect the Jewish children, and after a while she said, "Just run, whichever way you can, just run away."
Was it common for did any other non-Jews take part in protecting the Jewish people besides your teacher?
No,
Did you consider yourself Polish?
it's a very good question. When we were liberated, this will come later, but when we were liberated, and when we were liberated, and we thought we the only Jews and we were 200 women, and a chaplain came and he said that whoever wants to go back to Poland, they're gonna be on their own, and whoever wants to stay in Germany and thinking of going to other countries, we have to go to Munich. We were liberated in Saxony. It's a different, in Germany. It's so only 2 women decided to go back to Poland. Everybody else said they're gonna go back. They're gonna go into the American side in Germany, and they will not go back to Poland. So when we got papers, so they said, "So where were you born?" What? And we would say that we were Staatenlos. How would you explain stateless? The German Jews, on the other hand, they said they were born in Germany. The Polish Jews never wanted to say we were born in Poland. We said stateless.
What happened to your dad's job?
My dad brought in the whole family. We worked together till Auschwitz. And Auschwitz was, the family was over.
So
This is not a good question. I want you to let you know. It's not a question that you could answer it well.
So once the ghetto was established, everyone was just focused only on survival.
We only looked for survival, and the thing was, it became like a country on its own, the ghetto. We had our own money. It was run like a country by itself.
After the establishment of the ghetto, were there only Jews in your neighborhood?
Yes.
Did any non-Jews move out?
Yeah, they had to move out. They had to move out. There was no question about it. They moved to the part of the city. They moved in to the Jewish apartments that belonged to the Jews.
How many people were in the ghetto?
I think at first was 250,000, but I'm not sure He probably will know better than me. Do you remember?
I don't know the numbers offhand, but we can always look it up.
Because you know the Jews came from all over around Lodz. You know there were small towns, and they all came into they not because they wanted, but they had to leave their places and come into Lodz.
Was the ghetto separated from the rest of the city?
Yes,
How was it separated?
they took a certain amount of the old city. Lodz was before the war was 100 years old. It was not the old city, so they took the old city, and they what do you call it with
Wire?
the wire, and they put around the wire all over, and every so often there was a German soldier standing with a gun. If you went close, he was able to shoot you.
Did you hear of that happening?
Yes, it happened a lot. At first, a lot of people wanted to commit suicide, so they went close.
Did you ever see it happen?
No, because I never went near it.
Did anyone close to you die from that? From trying to
To commit
cross the bound?
suicide, no, but I had an uncle that he decided that he doesn't want to live. So he went to bed and he didn't eat. So when you don't eat for a few days, but know that after a while you don't want to eat, and he died of starvation. He just wanted to die.
What was done with the bodies of the dead?
We had a cemetery that we had a Jewish cemetery in the ghetto, which was an old cemetery, but that was the only cemetery in Lodz that I was aware of.
Did your parents continue to work?
And me,
Did your parents continue to work?
I don't understand.
Did your parents continue to work their jobs?
Oh yes, my father was very busy. My father worked. My father worked all the time because he was very good at his craft, and that was very rewarding to us as a family.
Did you know of anyone? Did anybody close to you try to cross the boundary of the ghetto?
No,
Did you continue to live in the same apartment?
yes,
Did anyone else live there?
I lived with my family, and we took in my mother's mother. My grandmother lived with us.
You mentioned the food earlier. How did the food change?
The food, we got rations, right? At first, we got rations, and they were very, very poor. And we got, I think, 800 to 900. At first, 800 to 900 calories a day, and then even that got lower. We were all starved. and everything, when the ghettos settled, everything was rationed. And the thing is, if you didn't work, you didn't get food. If you had a baby, the baby didn't work, so it didn't get food. Food was only for the people that worked.
Did they buy the food or was the food given to them?
Did they what?
Did they buy the food using money?
Well, about the ghetto was when you went to work, eventually you got paid in the money that was run by the ghetto. At first, the money didn't mean anything, but slowly the money became money, and we got paid, and we paid for the food. And the only one, I'm repeating, got food if they worked. If they didn't work, they didn't get food. And that made the starvation very bad. The older people didn't get food. If they didn't work, they didn't get food. But the children that didn't work didn't get food. And the ones that got food was at minimum, very little food. We had we got very little potato. We got kohlrabi. It's a vegetable. I never want to look at it again. And we got some carrots occasionally. We got. The thing is, we used to go into the field. There was no fields actually, but all the greens that were coming up, people picked and cooked it. The only thing they gave us enough is paprika and salt. We got salt. Other than that, we got a little bit of sugar that was the brown sugar, was very little. But also there was, believe it or not, there was a blood market. It created a blood market. And some people, took the jewelry, sold the jewelry, whatever they had a pair of good boots, they sold it for food. The hunger was just terrible. A lot of people had TB, and people just died. I'm going to tell you something, you wouldn't believe it. My father was recognized. We belonged to the Bayrat. There was people that got double portions of food, and we were among them. We were the elite of the ghetto. So he came home one day with 4 cans of meat, and the cans were busted. They were old, and we were so hungry, and we decided to eat. And we ate, and we didn't think we were gonna get up in the morning. Right? You wouldn't believe it. We ate it, and each one of us got up and they said, "Is this something wrong with your son?" No, we were fine. The meat was coming out from the side of the fence. The tap was busting up, and nothing happened to us.
You were suspicious that it would be something wrong with the meat?
Of course, if a can busts, that means it's done. It's overdone.
Why did your family receive double rations?
Why? I didn't.
Sorry, why did your family receive more rations?
Because we were the elite. There were, I don't know how many people. We were the elite of the ghetto. I used to be able to go and listen to a concert or you know, we were like rewarded.
For what?
My father ran a factory of 800 people. So I don't know if that had to do with it. I just don't understand that he was that documented about it because I went through a lot of books and I don't see his name. Where I see a lot of the names that I knew that were my father's position.
What happened to your friends from before the ghetto? Did you still see them?
My friends before the ghetto.
Before the ghetto was established, you mentioned friends.
No, because everybody had a different. A lot of people left for they. No, I had a few friends that I went to school with, and one of my very close friends survived with me in the same camp. She survived, and and she survived with a sister, and I survived with a sister. We both survived with sisters.
Did you continue to go to school? Did you continue to go to school after the establishment of the ghetto?
You know, I don't think there was school because if there was the first year, the spring was 1 year of school, and I even remember the name and the street, and then they closed the schools, and I never heard of anybody to go. The friends that were my age, none of us went to school. It was over. We went to work.
What was your job?
Was one job. I was sewing by hand.
So you were working in textiles like your parents?
I worked in my father's factory.
Did that make the work any easier?
Yes.
Was that considered a desirable job? Do you remember, was it considered more desirable?
There's no such a thing as a desirable job if you do it. If you have to, it wasn't that you came to the job and you did 3 things and all that. You had a ration to finish. Whatever you had to do, it was mainly, nobody did the whole garment. Everybody did one part. I don't know. I know in German the name. It's like when you work in a factory, right? One opens the box. Another one puts something in the box.
Right.
Then it's like what do you call
Assembly line?
it? Assembly.
You never got to finish what you started.
Was assembly.
And were there other jobs that were more risky?
Yes.
Like what?
We had a factory that they made toys, and the toys were sprayed with lacquer. You know, it was sprayed, and lacquer smells something awful. You know, they didn't have the ventilation that you think of, and all that. It was in a factory, and within they worked there about two. Actually, was on our street, not too far, and the factory went on fire, and it was such a big fire that they brought in. We had our own firemen in the ghetto. We had policemen, firemen, just like a, you know, little country. So they brought in from the firemen from this from out of the ghetto, because it was such a bad fire. Because it was lacquer. It burned for about 2 days, and some people say they set it on fire. So I don't know. It was a fire. It was a very bad fire. Then we they whatever you could think of, they made in the ghetto. They had children's clothes. They had Sattlerai is if you work like Sattlerai, I don't know how it is in English. Whatever you could think of, there was work in the ghetto. There were shoemakers. There were, I hate to tell you, brassiere makers, underwear, stockings. Everything was, everybody worked. You had to.
Who were the goods going to? Who was getting these goods that were being made in the ghetto?
They brought it into the ghetto, from out of the ghetto.
Where did they go? Were the people in the ghetto using them, or were they leaving the ghetto?
When it was done, the finished fabric, it went out of the ghetto. It was made for Germany. We did military work. My father designed something, and therefore we also, you know, they were shooting, you know, in the. When there's a lot of snow, even in Russia and all that, there was shooting. So in order to shoot, they used to lie down like this and shoot like this. So they wanted them to look like the snow. So he designed the garment to be able to stretch and not be confined. So therefore, we, you know, a lot of things happen. Well, I don't know to go from one to the other, but eventually I will tell you. I don't know what else I could tell you.
Who ran the ghetto?
Rumkowski was a Jewish man.
What about what sort of role did the Judenrat play?
You didn't know.
Oh, what sort of role did the Judenrat play?
Rumkowski.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting it. Move over a little bit.
The Judenrat.
I can.
He was the Judenrat. Yes,
Okay.
the Judenrat. I didn't hear it.
Do you remember about? Can you tell us any stories about him specifically? Do you remember seeing Rumkowski?
Yes,
Can you tell Devin? Look at Devin.
I should look at.
At him. Yeah. Look at this nice young guy right here, and look at him. No.
He's good looking.
Yeah. So look at him.
Tell him about Rumkowski. What you
Yeah.
know.
Tell him about Rumkowski, because Rumkowski is a famous person. Let's talk about him.
Okay. Rumkowski became he was before the war. He used to have an orphanage that he ran in Lodz, and he took care of orphans. and he was, and this is the rumors. He was someplace, and they said they needed Judenälteste. All the Jew Elster means a principal, sort of. And since he had white gray hair, they said, "You're gonna be the Judenälteste." And he became the president of the ghetto. Now, he ruled the ghetto. Most people were not happy with him. They were not happy with him. They claimed that he didn't, when the food came in, he waited too long to displace the food and all that. And he also formed from the ghetto, it's called the Bayrat. How should I explain you what the Bayrat means? Can you help me?
I'm not even sure. I'm not sure. I want
Okay.
you try, and then we'll see what happens.
So there was a Bayrat. So there were a certain amount of people that they helped a lot. They knew how to do certain things and all that. So they got Bayrat, and we got a double portion of food, and this was like being Rockefeller's daughter. A double portion. Even with that, we were hungry. The hunger was so terrible. So we got the Bayrat. And the Bayrat also, when it came to close the ghetto, there was a Sperre in 1942, and they said that they're gonna take away the older people and the children and the people that don't work. But they made a deal with the Jewish police. We had the Jewish police that if they're gonna help. In other words, they're gonna go and search for the children and for the older people and all that. So they had to give up a child. So they promised the police that their children will be safe. They're gonna take them away. And the Germans gonna keep them. So we were included. I had a brother that was born in 1935. So my brother was 35 or 37 he was born, I forgot suddenly.
You said he was 7 years younger than you, so it was
Yeah.
around 35 or 36.
He must have been younger somehow. This was 42. What happened was everybody had to go outside and they made a selection and they decided who's gonna live and who's gonna die. So at first the Jewish police did not want to help, but then they promised them that if they're gonna give them their children, they're gonna save them. And after the Sperre, they're gonna give them back to children. So my father was included in that. So I remember my father sitting like he's sitting now, and I kept on passing him by, and I wanted to tell him that I would like to go instead of my brother, but I never told him, because he was sitting always and all that. It came to it. My father gave him the boy. So The Sperre went on for a week. It was terrible. We never knew where they're gonna show up and where they're gonna make a selection and all that. As a matter of fact, not because I want to make the story interesting, they took me out. One of the SS took me out. We stood in line. And then somebody came in asking for something. And he walked away. My father put me back in line. He never came back. You know, destiny. Unbelievable. And anyway, the Sperre was over and the ghetto was empty because a lot of people didn't want to give up their children. They went with their children. They went on the buses.
Or you have to stick together as a family.
And they went on the buses, and when the Sperre was over, 2 days later, we got back the children. I'm making it fast. They brought them back.
Do you remember? How do you remember the decisions your parents had to make to give the kids over? Do you remember that decision happening?
My father couldn't make that decision, and finally he decided to get the child. Yeah, because they guaranteed, but who are they to guarantee? They said those children will be back. They came back. They gave us back the children.
And then,
That was only a few from the Bayrat and a few from the police, and we had firemen.
And when speaking about the Judenrat, do you remember how did you know everything they were ordering? Were there radios? Did you attend speeches? How did that work?
There was no radio.
No radio.
Radio was forbidden. And the speeches, you know, we were so down already. We were weak and tired and sick. We were sick. A lot of TB a lot of people had TB.
Why were you told that they wanted to take the children?
Why they wanted the children? Because a child is not productive. You have to give to a child. And you only wanted productive people. That's my own answer.
Did you wear anything labeling Jews? Did you wear anything that labeled you as a Jew?
Even in the ghetto,
Even in the ghetto.
we had to wear a star back in front. In the ghetto.
What color was the star?
Yellow.
Yellow. And how did that make you feel?
Terrible.
Did you feel like, and did you have any time to yourself in the ghetto?
Well, let me put it this way. In many ways, I was a privileged child too, because I worked in my father's factory, and any factory I would want to go, I was privileged to be able to do it. I got bored in one factory, so they had a children's factory. So I went to the children's factory and I worked there. I thought it was more social.
Yeah. And I know you said you didn't have any radio. Were you allowed to be sent any letters or send any letters to other people?
The beginning of the ghetto, we were able to do that. The very beginning. And as a matter of fact, I have two things that I have it here even. I don't know where I have it now. That we sent a letter to my uncle, and my uncle responded. And no matter what you said, we couldn't write our own, so we had to go to the post office. And whatever you told them, it didn't matter. They wrote whatever they wanted to write. It was controlled.
You needed help because you had to write in German? Is the reason you needed help because you had to write in German?
It had nothing to do with German. You couldn't write on your own. They did not allow you to write on your own. Somebody else wrote, and they were told what to say, what not to say. So instead of going through that, no matter what you told them, they wrote what they supposed to write. It was controlled.
And besides letters, did you have any contact with the world outside the ghetto?
No.
And what about nighttime? What was that like in the ghetto?
We were happy to go to sleep because we worked hard and we were hungry. And sometimes we couldn't sleep, we were hungry.
Was there a curfew?
The ghetto? I don't think so. I don't think, but everybody was tired.
And then, in the ghetto, you mentioned something about Volksdeutsche. Volksdeutsche. What were they doing in the ghetto while you were working? The Volksdeutsche.
They were not in the ghetto. There's only Jews in the ghetto.
Were you aware of what they were doing outside?
No.
And then, what about, so you said that those that were younger, since they were less productive, they were cared about less. So
They did not make it. Most of them were taken away, and a lot of them died.
how did your younger brother survive?
I told you that we got him back, and we were like the elite of the ghetto.
And then, when did you notice Jews to start being deported elsewhere outside the ghetto?
I was never outside the ghetto.
No, but in the time of the ghetto,
I was never outside the ghetto.
but were Jews deported to other places during the time of the ghetto?
Never knew where they went.
You never knew.
Never knew.
Okay. And then, as more and more Jews disappeared from the ghetto, did conditions get even worse?
Yes. The hunger got worse. The hunger and the winters, we all, in order to keep warm, we all took our furniture in the winter and cut them to pieces and burned it for warmth.
And
We were the poorest of the poorest from everybody that had anything. You know, after the war, we got together with other people where they escaped, where they lived, and when we came into Auschwitz, you know, people came with nothing. We were the poorest people to come in to Auschwitz. We had nothing. We didn't have clothes, we didn't have food, we didn't have nothing. Not even jewelry, nothing. We were very poor.
The possessions that you had before the Germans came, what happened to them?
The what?
The possessions that you had.
don't know.
Your family's valuables, their candlesticks, and
I don't know. I don't know. Because that's the end, it meant nothing. I don't know. I have, to be honest with you, many times I think where were our candlesticks? I know we had silver candlesticks, and we had silver spoon and this, that. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe they sold it. I don't know. I have no idea. We did not. Nothing mattered towards the end. We were all very hungry, and when you're hungry, nothing matters. Nothing. Food is life.
Did anyone steal? Could anyone steal?
Did anybody steal? I don't think so.
Outside of food, were there other things that could be bought in the ghetto?
Yes, people sold shoes were a very important thing, and shoes, mainly shoes, jewelry. I was actually too young even to think of those things. It just I didn't pay attention to it. I know my grandmother had diamond earrings, and she put it. That was the beginning at the war, and she put it away. And my mother, in the drawer, my mother found it, and my mother never screamed at her. She said, "Why did you put it away? If they want to let them have it, they could have killed you for it." So maybe it was taken. I don't even know.
Did any Jewish ritual continue during this time? Did any Jewish ritual continue during this time?
We lit candles. We used to get a candle, and I don't know how and when, and cut them. It just lit two candles, to make it last longer. Everything, there was nothing. We had cables that were that thick in wood. They were used in the factory, and they cut them to keep the apartment warm. Like nothing. We had a beautiful wardrobe was cut down to keep the apartment warm. Like things did not matter because we knew we're not gonna be coming out alive.
Was that allowed to light the candles?
Yes. The ghetto was like a
Little country?
little country.
Were there any new laws that started to be enforced after the ghetto was created?
Oh yeah, there was some laws, yeah. I don't remember them, to be honest with you, but there was some laws.
Were the people who enforced the laws primarily the Jewish police? Sorry, who primarily enforced the laws in the ghetto?
Bukowski.
Did you ever interact with any authorities inside of the ghetto?
Did I what?
Interact with any authorities inside of the ghetto?
I don't understand that.
Any police inside the ghetto that you interacted with?
No. But I want to tell you, there was in the ghetto, it was called the Cripple. Did you ever hear about the Cripple?
the cripple? No.
it was called the Cripple. And people that had jewelry or money or something, they used to pick them up and beat them to death, to give up the jewelry. And usually the Cripple had spies in the ghetto. We don't know. They did have spies. They finally got a hold of my father, and we didn't think he's gonna come out alive. And they took him, and I don't know, they interviewed him. I remember sitting outside, it was in a church, and they interviewed him for about 5 hours, and they let him go, and they didn't beat him up. We did not expect him to come out alive. So whatever jewelry it was, they took care. The Germans got it.
Can you explain who the Krippos were?
They were Germans, and they were Nazis, and they watched people that had money and or something. They used to bring them and beat them to a crisp. Most of them died. That's how bad it was. But we were very, very poor towards the end. I'm telling you, we did have nothing.
Do you know how your dad made it out alive?
He died the day of the liberation in Dachau.
Oh no, made it out alive after he interacted with the Crippo.
Yeah. He said they interviewed him, and they interviewed him, and they let him go.
Did they take his things?
Did they take what?
Did they take his things, his nice things that he had?
We had nothing to give. We have nothing.
Were you aware of any efforts to resist?
Well, in 1942, there were a few people that there was a very close little little city. It was called Pabianic. It was very close to the ghetto, to Lodz. So, but I forgot how many people there were, and they tried to escape from the ghetto. And they caught them. And what they did to these people, they hung them. And it was where I lived in the neighborhood. It was winter time, maybe it was November. Was already snow, and you know Poland is cold, snow. So everybody had to come out and watch it. And let me tell you something, that when you see somebody hang, you never forget it. I have never ever forgotten it. When they hung them, everybody had to come out. Maybe 800 people were there, 500 people, I don't know, a lot of people. And they hung them, and they made sure that everybody will see it. They had tactics to frighten you.
Were you ever offered to be a part of any resistance?
A part of what?
Of any resistance?
No.
Did anybody you know participate in the resistance?
No. They probably wouldn't trust me.
You were a young girl at that time.
Right.
How many people knew about the resistance before they were caught?
let me tell you, and this is off record, okay? I don't want to. This is my own opinion, so I don't want to be recorded on it. The people that were dreamers, and they used to say they go in and out of the ghetto, and they do this, they do that. It never happened. It never happened.
It was no use.
It never happened because there was no way of going out of the ghetto because there was always a quarter of a mile, I would say, a soldier with a gun holding like this, ready to shoot. Once in a while they walked because it was cold, you know, but there was no way out of the ghetto.
So, it seems that you did not engage in any formal resistance, but did
No.
you express any rebellious acts in private or by yourself?
By myself, yes.
What were those?
I wanted to commit suicide.
Is there anything that stopped you from committing suicide?
Yes, I used to think of my mother and father.
Did you talk about this with anybody?
No,
And there were other Jews from outside the ghetto that came into the ghetto, right?
What came into the ghetto, people from Austria, Germany, and from around Poland, and the last people that came in was from Czechoslovakia, and they came in, at most were doctors and lawyers and professors. The elite of Prague and Bratislava, the elite, and they were committing suicide like you wouldn't believe. They were committing suicide like every day. There were a couple of people that committed suicide. They took a look, the greyness and the hunger and the filth in many ways. Those are people that lived comfortable, and they were very well educated, and they came in with the most beautiful clothes. That's all they did, to sell the clothes for food. They didn't care about the clothes, especially the boots. They all wanted the boots.
Did you get to know any of them personally?
Yes,
Who?
my mother got friendly with Dr. Landau. He was an MD, and he lived next to our building. So he used to come and visit us. He did not survive. And then was another girl that we were friendly with, that didn't survive. But I was in concentration camp, with a mother and a daughter that they came from Bratislava, and they survived the war with me. They were among. I
Wow.
was with them in Auschwitz and then in most of the camps that I was.
And did they tell you what was going on in the rest of the world when you interacted with them?
No, we were cut off from everything.
Do you know what happened to them right before they came in their countries?
From Czechoslovakia, they were rounded up as Jews. The same thing with the German Jews, the Austrian Jews. You know, they just took them, against their will.
Break.
Well, overview. Do you have any more questions? Feel free to ask them.
Were they very culturally different from you?
The Czechoslovakian Jews, absolutely. They were very cultural, very educated. They were the elite of Czechoslovakian Jews. They were the elite I'm talking about.
More than your family.
Well, you know, Poland, if you wanted to be educated, you could not make, when you want to go to high school, you had to go to another country. College to another country, and then whatever you wanted to be, you finished in another country. And then, like in my family, my mother's side of the family, we had a lot of dentists. The women were dentists. So all their education was in France. And then they came, when they were done, they came to Poland and practiced in Poland.
Were people with higher levels of education, higher status within the ghetto?
The ghetto, we have no education. We have no school.
The people who came from out of town who were higher status, was that maintained?
They came and they joined they joined the hunger and the grayness of the ghetto. And right away they had to go to work. If they didn't go to work, they didn't get food. So right away they got whatever, a number, whatever, I don't remember anymore, and they joined the force of working.
In the factories?
Some, when there were doctors, they joined the doctors. Some were, we have doctors in the ghetto. We had hospitals that in 1942 we had a hospital. Did you ever hear of the hospital?
Mhm.
Alagevnitska?
Yeah.
First it was a school, but during the ghetto they made a hospital of it. So it started the hospital in 1940. And in 1942, the Germans made a raid of the hospital. They came with trucks and they took the children, threw them from the windows into the trucks. And the same thing they did with the patients. They didn't give them the honor of walking down. They threw them out the window into the trucks. Can I tell you more cruel things?
Yeah, feel free to share anything.
It was pretty cruel.
Please share, if you're willing to.
It was very cruel. I don't know how much people told about. It was very, very bad. I mean, the ghetto was worse in many ways than concentration camp. The only thing was better. We had our bed, and we could wash and brush our teeth. I cannot say one good thing that happened in the ghetto.
What were some of the cruel things that you were referring to before? Is there anything else that you'd like to
Hunger.
mention? Hunger.
The worst thing in life is hunger. Take it from me. When you're hungry, you're ready to do anything for food. I know I would do anything for food. I know that it would happen, and I had a double ration. So can you imagine when you had half of my ration?
can't imagine. No.
It's in a way the ghetto was terrible, and Auschwitz really was something. When I came to Auschwitz, uh, I was young. I was not developed. You know, I had a hole here because that's something I was. And the first thing they started shaving my hair. And then they wanted to shave my underarms. I had no hair. And I started screaming. I thought they were gonna do something worse than that. I didn't know. And we were all nude, you know. There was no clothing on us. So finally we shaved, and then they put us into a shower. And I saw on the shower head hot water, cold water, and gas. So I was with my sister. So I said to my sister, they're gonna gas us. I was very alert that way. They're gonna gas us. So my sister said to me, let them gas us. Like we didn't care. It turned out to be just a shower. And then they gave us clothes. So they gave me there was no underwear, there was nothing. They just gave you a dress. So I said to them, this is not my dress. And they thought it's funny, they made fun of me. They were all laughing. Finally, I settled into just a dress. No underwear, nothing. And they put us into a barrack after that. And we were put in like sardines, without exaggeration. We had to sleep one on top of the other. There was no room to turn. If you turned, everybody had to turn. Maybe 10 people. And it was something unbelievable. And then we got the soup in the morning. The following morning we got the soup. So they gave us the soup in one pot for maybe 15 people. No spoon, nothing. So when you came next, you had to take in a sip. So some people said you took too many sips, and it started fighting. And the fights were not that simple. So some did get food. When the pot was finished, there was no soup for the rest. So it was right away horrific. How can I describe it? We became like animals.
You were treated like animals.
And then after a while we had to go on sail appeal. And Auschwitz in politics are changing. It's cold. It's already cold there. So we were 5 women. We had to stand in 5. So we stood one on top of the other, to keep it warm, because till they came to count us, took time. Meantime, we were freezing. So we used to count to 15, and back one came to the first one, so your back was covered. It's good to be in the middle. It was like I didn't know where I am, and after a while, my sister broke down, and she didn't know where she is, and she said she doesn't know her name, and she doesn't know who she is, and she started throwing up green. You know, we had no food and all that, and she had a breakdown, obviously, and I got it. It lasted 2 days, and then a few days later, the same thing happened to me. I lost it. I remember the dream, but nothing else. And I don't remember being in concentration camp. And then a few days later, Rumkowski came. I saw him walk down with his wife. He had a wife and a brother and a wife. So he came and the Germans took him away separate. And I saw him walk down and I heard they were shot. That's what somebody told me, that they killed him. And then I started going through the selections. And the selections were very bad because you had to be nude. You couldn't wear anything. And they selected you by how you look physically. And one selection, they took me to another place away from my sister. And we all looked alike because we were sitting, most of us like this. And we were all nude and we were shaven. And we all looked alike. And I took the chance and I got up to go to the other side and I started running and I was still fast. And I saw a spot and I sat down on the spot. I just want to bring up what destiny is. And I sat down on the spot and I held my breath and I held my breath and they passed me by and they didn't recognize me. They looked for me to pick me up. And something else happened and they got busy with something else and I survived.
Wow.
I omitted a lot of things from Lodge, but I am on a go, so I'm gonna tell you more about Auschwitz. So that selection I passed, and I went through other selections, I passed. And one selection was, they took, I remember the barrack, I was in barrack 19 in Auschwitz, and they took the whole barrack to the crematorium. How did I know it's the crematorium? Before they put us into the crematorium, they gave us a little dish, like not a glass, a cup, and there was honey in the cup. And before we went to the crematorium, that's what they gave us, a little honey. So we got the honey. Of course we ate it, because, and we waited and waited and waited. And they said the crematorium is too full. And they sent us back to the barrack. The only ones that won the barrack they didn't take was the women that ran. They were the Stubenmeltesten. It's how would you say Stuben is a room, and they were the older of they ran the barrack. The barrack must have had probably 800-900 people. It's not a few people. And when we came back, they lost it. They thought they with us. They started to cry, and we didn't realize. And they told us that we were at the Gaststätte and they didn't have room, so therefore they brought us back. So that was one survival of a miracle. It's really unbelievable, right?
It is unbelievable. That is a miracle.
I want to tell you, destiny. If you want to live, if you, they said in Yiddish, if it's beshared, you're gonna live, no matter where you are. And I survived with my sister, and I had 2 cousins, and we survived.
Wow.
And after that, I was still of quite a few days in Auschwitz, and then they took us to Bergen-Belsen. And Bergen-Belsen was different. There were what do you call it, out of fabrics,
Tents?
tents, and in each tent had maybe 800 women, and we were sitting on straw, but you were one on top of the other, but not like in Auschwitz. We used to get food separate in something, but individually we got the food. So that was a better thing. And so Bergen-Belsen was not so bad comparison to Auschwitz. The only thing is if we wanted to wash, we only had one outfit to wear. So if we wanted to, first we washed our body, then we washed our clothes, and we put on our clothes wet, and we went to sleep, and the clothes dried on us during the night while we slept. We had no changes, we had what we had, but we were able to go out and get washed. So that was good. Unfortunately, I got sick in Bergen-Belsen, and when there was an appeal, and I had very high temperature, we were standing in line, and I leaned forward. I must have had a very high temperature, and my sister took her arm and she went like this. I shouldn't fall, and the SS man came over to her and slapped her, like he gave her a slap, but was okay. So we also had in Bergen-Belsen a place that it was called a hospital. And fortunately, the doctor that she was Jewish from Lodz, Dr. Ginsburg was her name, and she knew me from my mother and her seemed to know each other, and she saw my name, so she told me, "You are not." I came in, and she told me, "You are not to come anymore to the hospital. I'll let your sister come." So she gave me aspirin and an extra soup, which was like being a multimillionaire to build me up. I lost a lot of weight. I had very high temperature and all that, and I survived. I survived, and in Bergen-Belsen, it's also sounds. As a matter of fact, I spoke to my son a lot because it doesn't sound real. And I said, should I document it or not? But to me, it was real. So we were a lot of people from the Lodge ghetto in Bergen-Belsen. There were about 2 or 3 barracks in Bergen-Belsen, and mainly from Lodge. There was just women. And I survived whatever. And then they said that they're gonna take 800 people, and they're gonna take 600 people, and they're gonna take 200 people. And it seems that the 200 people will go to a better camp, to a working camp. So there were two or three civilians there, and there were about 4 or 5 SS men in uniform, and everybody's being picked, and they don't pick me or my sister, my cousin. And you know, when you're 15, you're not 20, you have the guts. I jump out of the line and I go over to the civilian men, and I said, I spoke very nicely German at the time. So I told him, Gehörte, Herr Gehörte. And I said to him, you look like a very, very nice man, and I would appreciate if I could work for you. And he looks at me, he said, why not?
Wow. It's another miracle.
But then my sister's is someplace else. So I tell him I have a sister. So he said, okay. So they take her out. And then I tell him I have 2 more sisters. He said to me, how is it possible? 4 sisters. We don't have names, we have numbers. He took them in. And we were the only camp that was good. It was a working camp. The 800 people went to Stuttgart. We heard this after the war. And in Stuttgart, they took the women and they put them on a boat and they drowned them. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Okay, so you know I'm not making up anything.
You're not making up anything.
And then the 800 some another, very few survived. I don't recall anymore, you know, so many years. So anyway, we come to Plauen. And this was Plauen to a factory. Well, at one time it was a school. And the German SS women, say, and me, who is she? Oh, they don't know. I'm not telling you the story. They said that these women are Gasson women. That mean they prostitutes. We have they prostitute. So they point me out. I was very thin, and they said, and how is it possible that she was a prostitute? So they said she's a kid to somebody's mother. I didn't have a mother there, but that's what I heard it, and they let me go, and they let me go, and of course we were all shaven. Our hair just started coming back a little bit, and we went into a camp that each one got a bunk, and we got a cover to cover ourselves because we never had one cover. Everybody had a cover, like 10 people slept in one cover, So we got the individual covers, and every 10 days we got the shower, and we could wash every day. We could wash ourselves. There were no toothbrushes, nothing. I'm gonna go back to the ghetto. I wanna make. And anyway, from that camp, I was liberated. But going back to the ghetto, I just remember they used to give us soap, and I couldn't take the smell of the soap. And there were initials on the soap, Ryan from Judenfett. It was made from Jewish skin. The smell was awful. And we used to wash with that soap. Most of the time I washed without the soap. That was in the ghetto. I washed myself because the smell was such a stench. And then we realized that what we're washing ourselves with.
Oh my God.
It's unbelievable, right?
It is unbelievable.
So, okay, so I'm done with that. Should I tell you the liberation?
Like take a break.
Yeah. Do you,
I was liberated by Americans.
well, we were just wondering if you wanted to take a break at all.
Pardon me?
Do you want to take a break at all?
It's up to you. I could take a break.
Let's take a short break.
Sure.
Okay.
That was great.
How is it? How am I doing?
You're doing
Very well.
It's and believe me, a lot of things I'm not telling. They were very, very bad. As a matter of fact, this is off record. I didn't have shoes, so before I was birth, they gave us those wooden shoes, and I was thin like you, probably thinner, and I couldn't walk with those shoes. Like the Holland, in Holland they wear those shoes, the wooden shoes, and I couldn't wear it, so I walked barefooted. And I stepped in on a nail. And when I went to get in Auschwitz, when I went to get something in the hospital, she was from Czechoslovakia. She said, "Get out of here, get out of here." I didn't know that every day they come and they take away the sick ones. What do they take them? So she gave me a bandage.
But the nail was in your. Was the nail in your foot?
Yet she took out the nail.
Okay. Oh my god.
And a few days later, I get a red mark all the way here and a lump here.
Oh my god. I mean, a bandage. That's not nearly enough.
And a bandage, a paper bandage. So I'm getting sick. So one of the women said to me that I should keep the foot in the earth, and Auschwitz had limestone. The water just stays in the limestone, it doesn't go down.
Mhm.
So she said, each time we on sail appeal, I should pick up a little bit and it'll take out the temperature. I must have a temperature problem.
Right.
Can you imagine? Red all the way
It
in
must.
a lump. Tell it to your father because
I'll see what he thinks. I my best guess is that it was very infected. I'm sure.
And you know what? That cured me.
The limestone?
Oh wow.
That cured me. After 4 days, they started getting purple and the lumps started getting swollen.
And it got better.
I recuperated.
Amazing.
And then in Bergen-Belsen, I go want to get a pair of shoes. And this Nazi stays near me. He said, what do you have to have? What do you need a nice pair of shoes? You'll never wear them.
That was a miracle that the doctor was your mother's friend.
Should I tell you what happened to her?
Yeah, but why don't we do it on the record a little later?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I could go back and do it.
We want to talk about it.
I know.
But don't say that now. Just
Sure.
ask them a question.
So,
Can we swap seats for the second half? Getting a
sure.
little lonely back there.
you
Oh
know,
yeah, sure. No problem. Do you want us to move next to each other also?
you know what
You know, we
happened?
can try it. Yeah, if you want to.
No, I wanted to
You
capture
know
one
what happened
story.
to the doctor?
Oh, so you sure you met her or not?
Unfortunately,
I
once
wasn't
the
going.
end, she
Oh,
committed suicide.
I'm sure they didn't treat her well either.
No, she committed. Somebody told her she didn't want to live through anymore. She because you came to the hospital. One day a day they came. She was very nice. And I remember the name. The
Oh,
first name I don't remember, but
You said Dr. Ginsburg?
Dr. Ginsburg. Yeah.
Can you tell us all this in like 2 minutes?
Oh yeah. No, sure.
I'm gonna use the bathroom.
Take a break, guys. Take a break. We'll take a break. We're gonna cut camera for a moment. Also, that way we'll take a break. And
You want to have a cup of coffee?
I had 4 already. I'm good.
Or why don't you have some juice?
Oh yeah, these are delicious. What are
They are. I don't know.
I can't. It's
I
just
had
like
one.
really
I'm
good
not
cream
supposed
between
to
them.
have it, but I think they kosher. I
Can I
think
ask a question? Actually?
Oh yeah,
Right now,
is
is
it
it-
is it
I'm
rolling?
rolling right now. Yeah.
We're rolling.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question real quick?
go ahead.
Yeah, you can.
Are you guys filming? Can I just check something?
Yeah. Check, please check.
Oh, I'm high. Believe me,
I
You're
just-
high?
I'm high.
Oh, we can talk about that if you want. So, interesting. Yeah.
Is this the insulin?
Pardon?
Is this the insulin?
What
He's
is
checking
it?
her numbers for the diabetes.
Oh,
Right.
I have a Libre 2. It's like a sensor.
Mhm.
Instead of pricking the fingers all the time.
Yeah.
But it's actually 75%. You don't get rid of finger sticking because that's more accurate.
Annoying.
So yeah, but this
I know.
gives you an average. So like for example, if I finger stick her in the morning and I do the Libre throughout the day, I have, so I
Good
know where
idea.
her
Okay,
range
okay,
is.
you did it?
Yeah,
You need to drink,
there's a
okay?
guy by shul who has one, so he keeps it on in the shul. And sometimes on Shabbos, like he gets an
Oh, that
alert
might-
or something,
Sure,
and
sure.
so he has to. All of a sudden, he runs out. So I mean, it's a good thing to have. My father has. That was one of the things that prompted me to take it seriously and lose a lot of weight.
That's the worst illness. That's a terrible illness. I got it in my 80s.
It was much better toward the end.
I put something underneath.
Yeah, I want to pick his brain.
I looked at it like that. I know. So go ahead.
Yeah. One second.
One second.
Yeah, just
Oh,
just
should
cut,
we
just
quiet?
cut for a minute. Yeah, I'm saying, if you're taking take a break, you guys need a break also for a few minutes. Do you mind if I just ask her 1 or 2 questions real quick? Is it okay with you?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. but
I'm not gonna
you
go
want us to be
anywhere. I mean, it's always going to be better that way, but yeah. I mean,
quiet?
it's
we'll
up to
be
you.
quiet. We'll be
No, I'm saying I'm not going anywhere into the next part of it. Put it like that.
I
I'm
do
going
have
back a
chance
little
to
bit.
talk to you in the break about some other questions.
So let's talk now before we. I mean, yeah, because you're taking a break anyway.
Well,
You just stop recording and everything.
it worked out better when
Yeah.
she just continued.
It's time for me to be, being a prisoner was my life. I don't remember that much from before the war as the warriors. You have to understand that.
Right. So we'll start with the. We're gonna go back to your deportation from Lodz to Auschwitz. Is that all right?
Fine.
Okay, cool. But if at any point, if you want to just continue to tell your story,
You know something, you should move can you move a little closer?
Tell me how close I can move.
Because I don't
okay,
hear
here,
it
stand up
as
a second.
well.
I'm sorry. That's my.
No, that's okay.
Sit here. Let me see if you're in the shot. Okay, if you don't lean forward, you're good.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna lean back.
You can move closer if you want.
okay, cool.
I'll speak louder.
So
Hold on a second.
yeah, it works best. We can obviously ask questions to guide you, but whatever way you want to tell your story, that's best for you and gets the most
I
details out there
understand
is
that.
best.
If you want
But
to
you know, he should
wanna cheat.
correct me
Here,
because
get
he
a
knows.
like this.
I-
Looks like both
I
of you.
don't, I'm sorry,
Cool.
I shouldn't say he, what, I don't know his name.
Guy or Gideon.
Yeah,
Gideon.
Buddha.
No, Gideon.
He-
Like Gideon, Gideon.
Or Gideon.
No, Gideon.
Like
Gideon.
Yeah.
Gideon from the Bible. He's
Gideon.
yeah. Authentic name.
Let's start with general questions together. Just tell a story, and then whatever she misses, then we could talk more specific about these
How
questions.
did I describe
Firstly, just like
Rumkowski?
ask,
I
can you
want
tell
to
us
open
in
it.
detail?
I would love to go more into it because were you there when he spoke about that famous speech that you spoke about with when your father had to make that very hard decision?
When I was,
Yes,
You were there.
I know.
So you
Yes.
remember he
There's
got
so
up
many
and spoke on the
things about
podium.
what I once spoke.
yeah.
When I point to a
Yeah,
question,
you remember
I
Rumkowski
wasn't saying
speaking
I want
on that stage.
Yeah, I know. It's like someone's hard to
You
It's
know,
very just
Oh,
good.
sorry.
To be like chatting. That's all.
Oh wait a second, guys! I just want to move the microphone back.
I
So I was
worked
trying-
where I worked, he
Oh, yeah, no
came
problem. I
over
just wanna
to
make sure
me.
we're
He
communicating
didn't know who
well.
I am.
Right.
He just came over to me
I was thinking
to
you should just ask.
say hello,
Mhm.
and
it's
I
a-
had long
Okay.
hair,
It's just having
and he told me not to cut my
Great.
hair.
Actually, I'm sorry. This is a bad. Can I just use the restroom really fast?
Yeah. Fine. So just, we're gonna cut for a second. We're gonna.
My sister after the war, would you believe it? She went to a match, and not only her, but 8 or 9 people. But it was a accident on a bus, and she died. I went through the war. That was my biggest tragedy.
Move your chair a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I have to tell
Okay,
you,
fine.
Gideon, when I came to this country, people looked at me and they would say to me, you were not in a concentration camp. I would say, why? You don't look it. And I said, how do people look from a concentration camp? They were so impossible. The questions they had, they said, they just, it was a different world here. But I'm not making nonsense. I don't want to be like, that I answered silly questions.
No, you're doing great.
Gideon, you're not gonna do it for me not meaning it.
What do you mean?
No, I am
Yeah.
pretty honest what I saw, what I didn't see. But you know, I spoke with Jeffrey. I didn't want to tell the story about the story about that the assessment.
Yeah. It's
I tell you something. When I in Meltoyer, when I started getting better, my hair started growing in curly. Like I have pictures, but like you know, like Shirley Temple locks, and they just couldn't get over. And I had one of SS woman used to put me in a locker and give me a slice of bread and butter and sugar on top. I still have the taste in my mouth.
did you play games in when you were in the ghetto, by the way? With other kids? Did you guys play hide and seek or anything?
Did I what?
In the ghetto, did you see other kids your age? Did you play any games with them, or is it just all work?
My father was okay. You know, in the ghetto, he made us read. I read Gone with the Wind in Polish. I read Sienkiewicz, what is it? Oh my God. I read about Napoleon. I read about the kings. I read a lot of books in the ghetto. He made us read, and we played Monopoly.
All right, so let's get
My
reset.
fuck, is this where you wanted me? Like here?
Yeah, I mean, the closer to the camera, the better. That's the thing, is because otherwise it looks fun, a little bit funny. I'm gonna have you actually move your chair again one more time. I'm gonna see if I can get you even cheat a little closer. Yeah, you're fine. You're not. In
Oh,
the
so you want me to just like
the
as
closer
adjacent
you are
to
to
the
the camera, the better it looks in terms of the eye line.
Okay.
So, give me 1 second.
So I'll just be like literally.
yeah.
right
Let me
over
just
his
fix
shoulder.
this camera, and then we'll start again.
Let me
Oh.
make myself a little
Okay, I might have to
more
adjust it.
comfortable.
Do you want me to help you with any of the pillows?
No, I'm pretty good.
Okay. You're comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just
Alright,
reset
cool.
the camera, guys. Let me just make sure everything's good with the camera.
I'm gonna start with the equation and go back.
Yeah, just start with that general question.
Since my son-in-law is not here, I have something very personal to tell. I thought I'm not gonna tell, but I'm gonna tell.
What is it?
When I'll start before, and I don't know if I want to film.
Okay.
My children don't know about it, and I shared it with my son-in-law. I have also a son. Nobody knows about it except my son-in-law. I shared it with him about 3 months ago.
Mhm.
And I've been with him for a very long time. And I'm very close with him, as you see it. So before you filming it, I'm gonna share that with you. When I was in Belgium, besides I was sick, and I don't know, I think it was the German that did it, but the Dr. Ginsburg always sent me home. They injected me. I don't know with what. I don't know why. this one, and with each injection I got a soup, which was like this was very important when you're hungry. And she did not let me stay in the hospital. When I went back to the barrack, she sent a couple of that's besides the pneumonia. She sent a couple of aspirins and a soup to me, and that really kept me alive. Do I have is my body? Does it show on my body? Yes, it's in my buttocks, and I have lumps, and I have lumps. I went to one doctor wanted to take it out, and all that, and I decided not to do it. So this is something I don't know if should we record it or not. But this happened in Auschwitz, and this not in Auschwitz, in Bergen-Belsen.
Well, it's something that stuck with you, so it may be important.
I don't know how important. Did you hear me?
Yeah, no, I heard you say that. I think it's an important thing to share, because if you don't share it now, it's saying when are you going to share it?
I didn't want to share it with anybody. I shared it. I tell you, this is off record. When I got married, I was 20. Yeah, I was 20, and my husband was 21. We were both very young, but my husband had a different history than I did because he was a partisan. We say a partisan, right?
Mhm.
He was never in camp. He came from the border of from Vilna. So when I didn't know what's going to be if it's going to affect if I have children. So for a while I didn't want to have children. And then slowly he said to me, if we want to have children, it's going to be a very bare marriage. And I was very immature, he was very mature. He said, let's have a child and see what happens. And he talked me into take the chance. And I had a child, and I had a very normal pregnancy. And he was born very normal, and he's a very nice man at this point. He's a psychologist, and I never shared that with my children. So I don't know if I should share at this point with the world. Let me put it this way. It's a very difficult decision for me.
Well,
It doesn't sound. It sounds like nothing, but it was a very hard decision to make, to have children or not to have children.
well,
You have children, so you could give your opinion.
You mind if I ask a question?
Yeah.
sure,
No, I'm saying, do you guys mind? I'm saying, you okay with if I ask one question real quick?
sure, yeah.
When you were making that decision with your husband to have a child, was it coming from, were you afraid only because of what happened in Bergen-Belsen with the doctor, or was it because of your general experience of how did we go through this?
No, what happened in Bergen-Belsen?
I think it's, of course, whatever you're comfortable with, but I think that it could be important to share because it's how the Holocaust affected your
don't
life
know.
later on.
To be honest with you, I don't know if anybody else got the injection because it was done one-on-one. When I was there, nobody else was there. When it was done, I was dismissed. Lately, do I have pain from it? Yes. It hurts me, but because it's lumps and it's so many years, and one doctor wanted to remove it, I wasn't sure, and I never did anything. I decided to live with it.
It's maybe we can continue on with your story, and we
And fill it in
yeah
slowly.
because we have a whole section for after your experience in the war, so maybe you can decide then if you want to mention it there. I think it could be important, but it's whatever you're willing to share.
I understand.
Is that fair? Okay. We're rolling now.
Yeah, we're rolling. Let's go.
You got it.
Could you start by telling us generally the story of your deportation? Could you tell us generally the story of your deportation from Lodz?
Well, in as much detail as you can.
Of how was Lodz?
Your deportation from
My
Lodz.
deportation.
To Auschwitz.
Okay. What happened was a certain amount of people they let us be, we were separate, as a family we were together with some other families that they were on the same statute as we were. And they said that they might leave us in Lodz. So they called it in German Koscheriert. Did you hear that name?
No, but you should look at Jake when you're
Oh,
speaking. Yeah, it'll look better on camera. Yeah.
I don't know how to translate that. We were gathered 3 or 4 families in the factory where my father was working. So they took us as a family, and we were there with 2 more families, and they said that they will not send us out, that we will remain working. So they told us to take our clothes and whatever is important to us, to take it with us. Like whatever clothes we need, we're gonna be there for a few weeks, and we're gonna go back to our home. But we were there, they cleaned up the ghetto, they sent out most of the people. And then they came one day and they took us on the trucks and took us to the train. And we were on the train with other people that they took to Auschwitz. What they did, they took it street by street, section by section.
And so how long before you were deported did you know you were getting on that train?
We did not know. We were promised that we're not gonna go, that we're gonna be remaining in the ghetto, we're gonna be working. They fooled us, they lied to us.
They lied to you.
Did you know where the people who were being deported were going?
No, we knew nothing.
So why did you want to stay in the ghetto?
Why? Because we knew where we are. We knew that the end is not gonna be good. You feel it. It's the atmosphere.
Can you tell us about the day of the deportation? The day of the deportation?
It's very funny. I came to Auschwitz 3 days before Rumkowski. So if they document Rumkowski, I could document when I came to the ghetto.
Did you think you were going? Did you predict where you were going at all?
No, we didn't know.
There was no way to know.
When we came on the train, we realized that things are not good because we were packed like sardines, without exaggeration. And while we were on the train kept on stopping and all that. And there was a Polish man working, putting coal at the station in the train. I don't know for what he was working. And he said to us, whatever you could, you should jump out from the train whenever you can and save your life because they're taking you to Auschwitz and they killing you. So everybody got, panicky. And so some people, I have to tell you, sound stupid. And some people said, oh, he's an anti-Semite. He probably wants to frighten us. And we believed it. And on each train, there was 2 soldiers from the Wehrmacht. There's a difference from the Wehrmacht to the SS. And they were watching us, 2 old men. So we had, on the train, we had something where you had to go to the toilet. What do you call it? Just a thing and people just urinated or, it was like for pigs.
Oh, bucket?
What?
A bucket?
A bucket.
Oh, yeah.
See, I cannot think of I'm sorry.
No worries.
It's happening to me more and more often now. I cannot get the name. A bucket, and everybody, whatever you had to do, you did it in front of everybody. We were really like pigs. That's how bad it was.
How long was the trip?
The trip was a few days, maybe 3 days.
Did anyone die or get hurt during the trip?
Well, after the trip, we got off in Auschwitz, and right away, what happened was my father had my brother, and they told him he cannot have my brother, so he came over to us and he gave my brother to my mother. Now, and right away we got to go into a selection. So this is a very painful thing for me. I have to. When we got into selection, my mother looked young and she was in shape. And, comparison to other people where I came from, we looked more in shape because we did better with food. So I still see Mendele. And Mendele was there. So first he took my sister and then me and put it on this side. And then my mother held my brother. And he wanted to put my mother with us, and my mother wouldn't give up the child. And he kept on pushing it, and after a while, she wouldn't give him up, and he threw her on the other side. And that was the end of my brother and my mother. I saw it. I always remember, I could describe what he wore, how his eyes were. I have never forgotten. I've forgotten my mother's face. I cannot remember my mother's face. I don't know why. When they did that, I had one dream, and I was in Bergen-Belsen, or not Auschwitz. I had a dream of my mother, and I saw her, and I never dreamt about my mother again. And I don't recollect what she looked like. I got like, it was cut off me. This was a very sad day.
Did you know where they went to die?
Well,
How they were killed?
let me tell you, being in Auschwitz and being in Zerlager, I was in Zerlager. You walk the street and you smell the crematorium. You actually smell the death of the people. There's a smell to it. And you see the smoke all the time. And Auschwitz was something that is just, I was in Zigeunerlager, that means the gypsy camp, and I was in Block 19, and it was just, we walked the streets. The last couple of days, what happened was they had an airplane, that the airplane flew very low, that you could see the pilot, and they made black smoke all over the camp. When it came, it was so low that we used to go like this. We thought it's gonna hit us. So I don't know what was the purpose, because Russia already was started to come in, winning certain things. So Lodz was liberated in January. I think so. I'm not sure.
What year?
44. And if, you know, we could, if they would have led us, we would have survived. It was a matter of a couple of months.
And I understand that upon leaving Lodz, you did not have much.
We had nothing.
Was there anything that you brought with
Do
you?
you know what I brought with me? A book. A book. There was nothing to take. And a comb. And a toothbrush. We were the poorest, and the last that we came to Auschwitz, from Poland. We were just very poor. We had nothing.
Did
What was the book?
I can't. What was the book? I read. I cannot think now of what I read.
I know you talked about
I don't
What-
remember what I read. What the book was. Oh yeah, I learned how to knit. So I'm gonna tell you something about knitting. About Auschwitz. I just remember something. In Auschwitz, every so often, this they said from Sweden or Switzerland to oversee the camp. So they used to give us. Oh no, it was Bergen-Belsen or Auschwitz. I'm getting confused. Let me think. Anyway, I was in Auschwitz, and they gave us something, and for a whole day they didn't let us out to go to the bathroom. It was a horror. We all were jumping up and down. We had to go to the bathroom. And I was laying on the bunker, you know, and I see something shining, and it's very, very little. And I started, was a needle, a half a needle, but the needle had the eye, you know what that means. The point was broken off, but the eye, you could thread the needle. So I would sit and take things from little things for sewing. And that needle helped me to sew. And then there was, I don't know, was Bergen-Belsen. It so happened they taught us how to, in school, in public school, before the war, how to knit, you know. So they brought in beautiful blankets for one day to show that we are taken care of. So I used to take out the wool from the blankets, and I found 2 sticks from a tree, and I made them, and I got wool out of it, and I made myself a pair of stockings. So I had stockings.
That must have helped you survive.
It kept me warm. You know, I don't know, we did things that it doesn't even sound real to me. But I also, in Auschwitz, I went out I first came and I went out to the bathroom. They already had a bathroom. And I came back, and for no reason, she was Jewish, by the way, a Hungarian Jew. They did not like us. They called us Lingela. And I looked like a Polish Jew because I was very light. The Hungarians were dark and more Sephardic looking. And she told me to bend down on my knees, and she took a shovel and she hit me maybe 30 times with the shovel for no reason.
And she was also a Jew in the camp?
I don't want to be recorded. I don't want to. She survived the war. I tell you something. I found out she's alive. Lives in Canada. Became very religious. And she's fine.
Okay.
She
We
came
can
from
take
the
that up.
Carpathian.
Did that happen often in
Yes.
the camps where,
Yes, a lot of us got beatings for no reason.
but
And
When
they came from a lot of them came from the Jewish people that they were there for a long time. I don't know if they had to do it or what, but they did it.
you think they may have been told to do it by a soldier?
If they had what?
You think they may have been told to do it by one of the authorities?
I don't know. I have no idea. I was only 4 weeks in Auschwitz, and that was the longest from our city to be 4 weeks. Right away, they got deported to other camps.
Did that happen often when
Yes.
prisoners fought
Yes.
each other?
Yes, there were fights over stealing. There were fights over stealing bread. We got the ration of a piece of bread. I used to eat that right away. It's supposed to last for the day. But once we left Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, I didn't have that. It was much better.
Why do you think that happened, that prisoners fought each other?
I don't know.
Do you think they were frustrated with the way they were living?
I tell you, I could never figure it out. To be honest with you, I have no opinion of it because I could never figure out why.
Were you ever stolen from?
Pardon me?
Were you ever stolen from? Did anyone ever steal anything from you?
From me? Yes. I came with, she knew me all my life. She was the daughter of my father's friend, and she was much older than I. And we were on the same train and all that. We were we were waiting, we were together. And one day I got up and she slept next to me. And I didn't have my, a little, like you drink, a little cup. We all had the cup. They gave it to us to keep. So I didn't have the cup and I didn't have the bread. So I realized I slept and somebody stole it from me. And for a million years, I wouldn't think that she did it. And for some kind of a reason, I don't remember how, she had a sister-in-law in another place. And she said her sister-in-law is dying, and she takes her bread and she eats her bread because the sister-in-law is dying. She doesn't need the bread anymore. She doesn't require food anymore. So she used to say that she's getting bread from her. I never knew her sister-in-law. I never went into the other bunk, but they caught her stealing from other people. So I realized that she stole my bread. And I broke up. We didn't talk to her the rest of the time. Stealing a piece of bread is like stealing your life. But this is not, it's without the exaggeration. If they steal the bread, you don't have till the next morning another piece of bread. And hunger hurts. It's not that you're just hungry, you hurt.
How often did selections take place?
in Auschwitz?
Yeah.
I would say twice a day sometimes. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes once a day.
And how did it feel not being? How did it feel being selected to live?
Very good. Very good. You know, it's a funny thing. I always thought if my sister they will be separated from me, that I'll kill myself. And I was very sad because in Auschwitz they had dividers with it was electrified. The
Oh, the fence.
fence. And the fence said, you know, stickers and all that. Do you know they've watched the fence that you shouldn't kill yourself? They didn't let us near the fence. They wanted you in the crematorium. Is that funny? So I was young, I was very fast on my feet, and you know, when you're young, you have a different mentality somehow. And I said, if they take my sister, I made up my mind, I'm gonna kill myself that way. I'll go and touch the fence. And this was made up my mind.
So your sister kept you.
My sister kept me alive.
And what did you wear in Auschwitz? Could you describe the colors of? You said you were given a dress.
One dress. To be honest with you, I could never describe the dress to you. I mean, you know, women that were already women, and some had their period, some didn't have their period. It was running over their legs. Nobody had panties or anything.
And do you remember your number?
No.
No.
We were not numbered from Lodge because we came late and they didn't already have time to do it. That's why most of us have no numbers.
And how close was the camp to civilian areas? How close was the camp to the outside world? Did you have any idea what was going on in the outside world?
Auschwitz was very big. They had different. They have different. The funniest part is when I came to Auschwitz, and we got off. There was sitting maybe 50 women, and playing Bach music, beautiful music, concerts. There were prisoners, but they were musicians, so they played. And you know, when I came, I said, "My God, there's a philharmonic here."
Right.
Did you meet anyone there who made a particular impression on you?
No. We were all
Yeah, we're like getting into
numb. People lost their mothers, their children, the husbands, of course, that's without a question. And the first few days, it's a shock. You don't know where you are, what you are. You don't even know your name. And you're hungry all the time, thirsty and hungry. You think we got water?
starting to get into this.
Just need to go through those.
How often did they give you water?
Pardon me,
How often did they give you water?
to be honest with you, I don't even remember getting water.
Jake, can I ask one question?
really don't remember.
Question for you. You mentioned, and I want you to look when you answer the question, please look at Jake. But you spoke before about how someone beat you up, and there were times that there were Jews who did it to each other. It happened.
Yes.
But what about the opposite? I want to know: did Jews help each other out? Also, were they helping each other? Did you see any acts of kindness?
I don't understand.
Did you see any acts of kindness? Did you see people being kind to each other, helping each other in the barracks?
Yes.
Okay, let Jake know. Tell him anything about that.
Yes. I'll tell you, in the last camp, she survived the war. She was, when you got diarrhea in concentration camp, you was sure you're gonna die. It was like an assurance. In German we call it Durchfall. And if you didn't get the nutrition, eventually you died. Diarrhea was like a cancer, like a fast cancer. So this was already in the last camp. Was very civil, the last camp. So everybody gave a tablespoon of their food. We were 10 women that gave a tablespoon of food of the soup for the girl that was sick. And we did that a lot to one another. We gave 10 tablespoons of soup. It amounted to a little soup. And the last camp, everybody survived. You couldn't do that in Auschwitz or in Bergen-Belsen. But people did help one another. They were sick. They this that. Yes, they did. In Bergen-Belsen, we did not get hit. I didn't get hit. We didn't get hit. It was a much different atmosphere.
And do you remember the layout of Auschwitz? You said you were in block 19, but do you
Yes.
remember the layout of the camp?
There's only one layout.
Or
There
what did
were-
the camp look like? Could you describe your surroundings when you exit your barrack?
It was like sheds, and there were numbers. There were on both sides. There were bunks that held a lot of people. There were not individual bunks. One room, and in the middle they had like bricks. I don't know. That divided the camp, the room. There was nothing different in any other place. There were the bunks for a lot of people. How many they were on, I wouldn't even know. But we were like sardines, really. We couldn't turn around. We couldn't sit up.
What did you do during the day?
During the day we had like an hour off. We always we sat in a group to control, or we stood to count us. They counted us twice a day. But I'm going to tell you something funny. In Bergen-Belsen, I want you to hear that. They had gypsies. And and they stood at the sailor field like we did. They never could count them right, and they used to be punished and stay over because if they didn't get the right count, you just stood there. But with the gypsies, there was never the right count. It's funny. It was funny to us.
Why was there never the right?
They treated the gypsies just as bad as us. They were also went into the crematorium, and we in Auschwitz we were called the gypsy lager. The lager means oh my God.
Barrack.
Yeah, help me out because I lose my words.
Barracks. You were in the barrack. 19.
But yes,
So, you spoke about some murders. What happened to the dead bodies? Where did they go?
to the crematorium. Lately, the crematorium was filled, and they used to burn them in ditches.
In ditches?
Yeah.
And how often did new prisoners come into Auschwitz?
I wouldn't know.
Were you able to observe Judaism at all?
Do I know?
Were you able to practice Judaism in any way in Auschwitz?
You know, it's funny that you ask. I was in Auschwitz and they said it's Yom Kippur and it's Rosh Hashanah. And how can you think of religion if you see your mother taking away and you know that she went to the crematorium? It's a very hard answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very hard answer about God and all that.
And you spoke about being beaten by others other prisoners in the camp. Were you ever beaten by the SS?
No, because they did not come into camp. There's only a few SS because they had other people taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
They were people from all over. There were men that were gay. There were in Auschwitz that Hitler thought they gay. There were in Auschwitz. There were men that did things, and there really didn't have to be an excuse to be arrested. There's no excuse. They were the mighty ones, whatever they wanted to do, they did.
Did you interact with any non-Jews in the camp?
One woman I met, and she told me she's not Jewish, in Bergen-Belsen.
And did you already talk about work? What work did you do in Auschwitz?
What I did,
Yeah, what work?
there was no work.
There was no work. And were you particularly close with anyone besides your sister?
Yes. I had a friend that we were on the same transport in Bergen-Belsen, and then in Meltoy in Plauen. She was I went to school with her every day before the war. We were school friends. And was I close with other people? Yes. Because we all came really from the same, from Lodge. We knew one another from the parents that need an uncle or a cousin or something, you know.
And could you just speak a little bit about any resistance groups going on in Auschwitz, or
There was no resistance for me.
no resistance?
No,
Did you hear of any?
no.
Okay.
I knew that anybody that will escape will be killed.
Did any of the prisoners there do anything that the guards perceived as resistance?
No, no, we really didn't do anything. Yet, if you wanted to volunteer, which I did, which was a big mistake, so to bring in the soup, you know, because it wasn't a kettle. So one time I went and I realized I didn't get anything out of it.
So now let's move on from Auschwitz and let's talk about your deportation from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen.
Yes,
Could you describe that process in as much detail as you can?
okay. I think there was about 800 women that we came in. And of course we were on a train that was going very slowly because the war was on. It was on a cattle train, and we were packed in again like sardines. And again we had on the train a bucket for if you had to relieve yourself. Here and there they threw at us a piece of bread. Actually, they threw at us. They didn't give it to us. So everybody was hungry, and you know they grabbed it. But there was a certain camaraderie. If you didn't get it, somebody shared something. If you got a bigger portion.
That's nice that they were willing to share.
Yeah.
Did you? I don't want to interrupt. Do you care to go on with the story of deporting from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen? Are there any more details you want to mention about
The Bergen-Belsen?
about the deportation from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen?
We were on cattle trains, packed like sardines, and no food, no water, no food, and most of us were really depressed, and we felt we're not gonna survive. We didn't think of survival.
When did you find out that you were leaving Auschwitz? When did you find out that you were leaving Auschwitz?
It was nothing to find out. It was a sale appeal, and they march you to the train. Do you think they asked us, or they told us where we're going, or where we going? We had no idea where we're going. And the Wehrmacht was watching us, and they didn't beat anybody. You know, it was just, there was a lot of crying. It was very soon that we lost, women lost children, lost parents, lost siblings. We were all very depressed.
And you were with your sister.
Yes,
And what time of year was this? Just to clarify.
I think it was September or October, something like this. I'm not sure.
Is there any? Do you remember any conversations on the train?
The conversation was who we lost.
We lost. It's hard to have a forward-looking mindset when so much just
Also,
happened in your past.
You know, in Auschwitz, what happened? Some people they shaved the head. Like I was shaved. There were few people they did not shave the head. They survived with hair. Why we don't know.
What's your question? I'll do a fast one, yeah.
Yeah, fast
Really fast.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, take a fast one.
I just wanted to
You want
discuss.
to tell me?
I just wanted to discuss really fast. We're not rolling.
Don't wanna, because of my children. I don't wanna make it public that I was injected. I would like to.
We keep that private. Yeah, sure, no problem.
I'll appreciate that.
You got it.
It doesn't matter at this point, but I don't want to. They should feel them something is wrong or something with them.
We understand. No problem. So, now moving on to your time in Bergen-Belsen. Again, in as much detail as you can. Could you describe a little bit about your time? Anything you haven't mentioned so far?
From which period?
So, I guess we could just start with from your arrival. What was your arrival like in Bergen-Belsen?
Okay. When they got us off the train, they walked us and we were greeted by dogs. And they marched us, I don't know for how long, and the dogs, the German shepherds watched us, and it was not very pleasant. We were afraid that they're gonna kill us. So none of us talked. We were quiet, and we were just marching. It was only women. There were no men.
Why do you think that was?
They kept men separate from the women.
Oh,
We
were there any men at the camp at all?
No.
Did you know what happened to your father?
My father? Yes, I know. He died in Buchenwald or I forgot.
Sorry, you were separated from him when you went to Bergen-Belsen?
I was separated in Auschwitz. Then you didn't follow me. In Auschwitz, we were separated from the family. Some survived with a sister, but men went a different side than women on a different side. There were no men involved.
How did Bergen-Belsen look different from Auschwitz?
Much different. Auschwitz had what do you call it? It looked like a it was a building, like a commercial building with a big open door.
Mm-hmm.
Bergen-Belsen didn't have, had only out of fabric tents, and we were in tents, and there were only tents. Just before we were leaving Bergen-Belsen, they put up buildings, and they put us. We were in the buildings maybe 2 days or 3 days. They put up buildings. They took us out of the tent and they gave us buildings. And it was very, very short. They took us away from Bergen-Belsen.
Do you remember what your first night was like in Bergen-Belsen?
Yes.
Could you describe it?
Well, it was a terrible walk because we were afraid of the dogs. They looked very vicious. They barked. They, sometimes they wanted to cross, and we were afraid that they shouldn't bite us or whatever. And when we came into Bergen-Belsen, it was night, and the only thing in Bergen-Belsen, they did not have a toilet. They had, was like dug out something, and out of a tree wood, we sat on it to,
Mm-hmm.
and there were, when we walked out, there were lights following us because the soldiers were sitting and watching us, from the, what do you call it? They were sitting on top.
From above?
Yeah, and what it,
I forget what those
Watch
are
the
called.
watchtowers.
Oh, a watchtower?
yeah, from a little tower in the, I'm sorry, my,
No worries.
and when used to go at night, they would put the light on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna tell you, it's not a pretty thing. Some women must have been pregnant, and they got through with, and they gave birth, and they probably didn't wanna show it or whatever. We used to see a lot of babies that they look like dolls.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, what can I tell you? You become this is life. You feel sorry and all that, but life continues. I don't know how else to go. Don't forget, I was still a youngster too. I was young. And not only I was young, I was naive. I was not the girl that you have today of 10 years old. I was a child. I was protected, clean, I had parents sort of to the last minute, and I was taken care of. So there are a lot of kids my age that didn't have anybody, and they wound up being alone. So that way I was fortunate.
And are there any other major
major differences in Bergen-Belsen that you want to touch on?
Yes, there were a lot of, like we were, there were, we were just women, and in another camp we could see across, there were men, and a lot of men, there were Russian soldiers, and they kept them in Bergen-Belsen. And one day I walked and there was a man, and he said to me in Yiddish, he says, Meidele, that means girl, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. If you could give me just a little piece of bread, and I had my rations, and I said to myself, I'll give him a piece of bread, maybe my father will survive, because I knew not. So I threw him the bread, and I didn't have bread for myself. And I felt that I did a mitzvah. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Even in those horrible, horrible times, you still wanted to do something good because maybe God will know about it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I
It's
gave
very
him.
kind.
Then when I came home and I told my friends that I gave the bread, they said, "You shouldn't have done it. You come first." But I did it. I mean, it's sometimes I talk to myself, and I'm a very good listener. So I talk to myself and I say, I'm gonna tell that story. Who's gonna believe me?
It's a heroic thing to
Who's
do.
gonna believe me that I did it?
He may have survived because you gave him the piece of bread.
I don't know. Listen, my sister was a very good girl, and so was my girlfriend's sister. And she was killed in the same way, the way my sister was killed after the war. What can I tell you?
Unless, do you have any more questions for Bergen-Belsen? Otherwise, we can move on.
I don't know what else I could tell
We
you
should
about
move
Lodge.
What? Move on.
Did you have any friends during this time?
Pardon me?
Did you have any friends?
I had a lot of friends. We actually, after the war, we were 200 women. There were 10 or 12 women from Krakow that they were now again among the 200 women. And they kept to themselves. And we kept to ourselves too. But we knew one another from home or something. So there was, we were nice to one another. There was no stealing, which was a big thing. Whoever went to work left the bread, and when they came back, the bread was there. Everything was there. There was no stealing. There was no hitting one another. We lived very nicely together. That was the last camp.
And then, so the work camp you went to, was that a sub camp of Flossenburg? Is that correct?
That belonged to Flossenburg, yes.
So, can you, in whatever detail you can,
I'd never been to Flossenburg's camp. I just knew that we belonged to Flossenburg.
Right.
That this was the mother camp. And we were like what do you call it?
a sub camp.
A what?
A sub camp?
A sub camp, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a working camp. Flossenburg was a concentration camp. I don't know anything of what was there, how it was. what I want to tell you, in that camp, my sister had a toothache, and they took her out to town, and they removed the tooth.
Mhm.
This would never happen in Auschwitz or Bergen-Belsen. Oh, so this was something that was unbelievable.
And did your relocation or your deportation from Bergen-Belsen to Flossenburg, was that any different from your past deportations?
No, no. They put us in a train. It was they put us in a train, and it was only 200 women. Later on, before the liberation, they brought in 800 women, Hungarian women from Auschwitz. They mainly walked. They were on trains, but they mainly walked. And they were liberated with us, but they kept them separate than us. At one time, this factory was a school. Before they did a factory.
And could you describe the difference in treatment in the work camp versus the concentration camps?
Well, when you went to work, they worked on ammunition, and everything had to be precise. You know, they worked on. I worked in the kitchen, so I was never in the factory. But I know from the girls, everything had to be precise, and everything was checked when they finished. Was checked. It was done the right way. Also, they built for us a toilet. So we had a separate toilet. So the toilet had like a drawer, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and every so often the girls had to clean the toilets. So, and we used to see certain wires in the toilet, so we never discuss anything that was not meant for the German ears.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
We never talked about anything. We were quiet. That if there's no food, or there's no this, so the girls had to wear something for their hair not to look presentable. And they used to bring us newspapers to cut, and and certain things while I was cutting the newspaper, I was reading, and they said that the Russians have concentration camps and gas chambers, and they killing the Germans. So you could see it they watched us not to read.
Mm-hmm. And was there still abuse on people in the work camp?
There was one SS woman, every so often she would hit somebody, but not too often. Not too often.
And working in the kitchen, was that an advantage for you as opposed to the ammunitions factory?
I was Rockefeller's daughter. whatever I had. I could eat, carrots. I could eat whatever while I'm doing. So when I came, I gave my sister most of my food, and I really, when I came, I was very very thin. I mean, to the point they used to call it the Muslim. I don't know if you ever heard that word.
Yeah.
And I was like a Muslim, and I did gain weight. I did gain weight, and I was very very lucky that I had an SS woman that used to put me in a locker, give me a piece of bread and butter, and heavy sugar. And believe me, I'll never forget the taste. And one day, she gave me potato salad. I never had potato salad in my life. I didn't know what potato salad is, but I felt that it's stale because it's sour. So I said, what the heck, I'm gonna eat it. Whatever happened, happens. After the war, I found out there's such a thing as potato salad. I never knew about it.
It's not so bad.
So my experience at the last camp was not too bad.
Did your sister also work in the kitchen, or she?
No. My sister worked at ammunition.
Who supervised you directly when you were working?
In the factory, they had a lot of French prisoners that they used to come to the factory and help the girls, teach them how to use the machines. They were French. And those French boys once in a while brought something for the girls, if they could. They brought a tomato, they brought a potato, once in a while.
Mhm.
They were very nice to the girls. In fact, this was a very unusual camp. I have to tell you. No, but though there's somebody here that lives here, and she's a Holocaust survivor, and she had a very different experience. She comes from Chenstokhov. Did you hear of Chenstokhov?
Chenstokhova.
Chenstokhova.
Yeah.
It's a very religious Catholic city.
Mhm.
And she worked in a factory, and she was always in that place. So she also says that she knows about Lodz, and nobody went through what Lodz went through. I don't know if her husband was from Lodz. She knows about Lodz.
And she's still alive and lives here?
She lives here. She's older than me.
What's her name?
Susan. You want her name? I'll give you her
Afterwards.
afterwards.
Yeah.
I haven't written down. She has a Polish name, I think, Susan something.
Okay.
Yes, there's another one, but the other one is.
Yeah. Let's focus here. Okay.
Okay.
What languages did you speak
What language I spoke?
when you were in the camps?
Polish.
With everyone?
We spoke Yiddish when we wanted, reminiscent. We spoke Yiddish. Some people knew when Rosh Hashanah is, Yom Kippur. Somehow or another they knew. They kept, they kept the dates in their mind.
The living conditions. What'd you sleep on in the work camp? What were the bathrooms like? Did you brush your teeth? Could you describe some of
Well,
that?
the bathroom in Bergen-Belsen I described to you.
Oh, in the work camp.
In the war camp. Auschwitz was also terrible, but the worst was Bergen-Belsen.
Mhm.
Because we sat on an open field, and on a piece of, from the tree, a piece of wood.
So we should get on. Okay, so let's move on to liberation. So, were you aware of the progress of the war?
I'm sorry.
Were you aware of the progress of the war?
No.
No. And could you describe the Liberation Day in as much detail as
I'm
possible?
gonna describe you something that sounds very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The place, we were liberated by the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So the planes started, well, we saw the planes with the bombing plowing. You wouldn't believe it. It was coming like snow, day and night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I have to tell that story. It's coming to me.
Mhm.
Okay, first let me tell you that. So, the planes was, the Americans were flying so low that we could see the pilots. So what did they do? The German soldiers took the women and covered themselves with us, with the women. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They were lying down and they took the women and covered themselves and they were shooting up and the planes were shooting down at them.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody actually, from the women, nobody got killed. So after the raid was over, we came back to camp. It was over. And I worked in the kitchen. I spoke to my son-in-law because it doesn't sound real, but it's real. And this happened a few times, and nobody got killed. And I worked in the kitchen, and it so happens a few months before they changed the assessment, the one that ran the camp, to a nicer assessment. And when there was no food at all, he would take some of the women and go out and get some food. So we had food, some food. So I overheard him talking to a German, to a SS woman, that he got a befehl, is an order that he has to take us and kill us. They don't want survivors. And I overheard it. And I was one of the youngest in camp. So first I told my sister, I said, look, you know, that way I was very mature, I have to tell you. I said, Luba, her name was Luba, we cannot tell anybody. When the time comes, you run, don't look for me and I'll run. Whichever way you wanna run, you run to save your life. So we had 2 cousins. So how do we not tell our cousins? In no time, it spread it. And what did they say about me? That I'm a liar, and I made up the story. And they started hitting me. I'm telling you this. It it took time. And we had a woman that she lived in the ghetto. They brought her in from Berlin. She was born in Berlin, and she spoke very well German. And she was the maitre d' from the 200 women because she spoke very well German, and she got a separate place that she stood, and she had a very nice disposition. She was very, very nice with everybody. And finally she took me on the side and she said, look, this is something very important. If it is a lie, don't worry about it, tell me. Tell me. And I said, it's not a lie. It happened, and I didn't want it to be spread. And she took me maybe for hours to her room and tried, in every which way, to take it that I'm not lying. And I said, I'm not lying. In the meantime, I was everybody's enemy. She took me to her room, and I couldn't go back to where I slept. She kept me near her. And everybody said what they were gonna do, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and they're gonna do that, and it's not true, and I'm a liar, I make up stories, and all that. This was during the day, and he came in at like the end of the day, and he said like this, tomorrow there's gonna be a terrible raid, and I wanna save you, and I wanna take you out of here. Did you hear 200 women cry at once? Everybody started crying. Because they knew already where we're going. So Mrs. Lerner started talking to him. She said, I write a letter for you that you are very good to us, and we'll all sign it, and whatever you want, I'll do for you. Just save us. So he was very blunt about it. He said, if I save you, I have a wife and I have 2 children, and they will not escape that. They're gonna be killed if I save you. And this went on for quite a few hours. And we went, and he promised that he's going to do it. He wrote a letter. He did write a letter. She wrote a letter for him, and he also wrote a letter. And the middle of the night, we look out the window, and suddenly the SS used to watch us. There was always somebody outside watching the camp, an SS, and we don't see the SS. And it's very quiet. And about 4 in the morning, we hear knocking on the door. And who was it? The Americans, the liberators. And that's how I was liberated.
Wow.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
And we
quite the
all
story.
survived.
Your sister and your two cousins?
Pardon me?
Your sister and your two cousins?
My sister,
And your two cousins?
we hugged one another. I didn't get it.
You, your sister and your two cousins,
Yes.
you all survived?
They all survived.
That's a miracle.
So I was the young child, and they said that I make up stories.
They didn't believe you at first.
No, and they beat me actually. She took me away. They started beating me. Isn't that a nice story?
How much time do we have?
And it's true.
I'm wondering what we should prioritize.
Sorry, when did they beat you?
And the first thing we did, we went into the street and we tried to get food, and the soldiers brought us food.
We have a lot of factual information.
You know, they gave us a can of pears. And my sister and I opened it, we never expected something so good. Everything was so good, so delicious, and they gave us chocolate there. What they gave the army, like heavy pieces of chocolate. The Americans were very good to us, very, very good.
Do you remember any in particular?
I got in touch with three Jewish soldiers, and they came and they said, we know we liberated you, but we're probably gonna send us to Japan, and it's gonna be the end of us. They didn't think that they're gonna go home.
We don't have a lot of time left in terms of footage, so I think it could be worthwhile because we have a lot of factual stuff on the Felder thing. So I think it could be worth just talking about the U.S. a little bit because we know how she got there. We have like 15 minutes. Yeah. So I'm just wondering what she was. We're gonna skip. We have a lot of information on Feldafing from our last meeting. Feldafing.
Feldafing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a lot of information on that from the questionnaire. I understand we don't have as much descriptive stuff, but just for the sake of time, we want to make sure we understand some of your reflections on the Holocaust first and prioritize that over talking about Feldafing. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit if that's all right with you. So what was it like, I'm curious, being liberated by the American Army, what was it like being in the U.S.?
To be liberated was the most wonderful feeling there was. We felt that we were the only Jews that survived because we were alienated from everybody else. So for a few days we thought, this is it, we found one man, a Jewish man, he was hiding. And when we were liberated, he was the only man that we saw, a Jewish man, after being liberated after the liberation, a day or two. And we thought that we the only Jews that survived. We didn't think that there's any other Jews. It took a few days, and the Jewish brigade came, and they told us that there's other people survived, and most of them are in Germany on the American side, because at the time they took Germany and they divided in four. Was Russia, France, England, and America. So they told us that they wanted us to go towards Munich. And that's going to be a train for us. And the UNRWA did supply us with food on the train.
Mhm.
And while we were going towards Munich, there were other survivors that they were loose. They were mainly men, and they joined us. And it took about 10 days, which is not that far, but the train went and it stopped. It went and it stopped because, you know, there were other priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So, coming to Feldafing, we realized there's more survivors. It was a big DP camp with there were every nation was there.
Mhm.
There were Turks, there were Greeks, there were Polish, mainly Hungarian Jews, Romanian Jews, from Yugoslavia. All of Europe was there in the beginning. So it was a very nice experience meeting so many Jews. The only thing is about Greece, I want to record that. There were only men that survived. There were no women. And they didn't, you know, they all worked. They worked in the kitchen. You know, there was work already assigned. They had Jewish police in Feldafing. They had doctors. They had lawyers. People from all over. They were prisoners. But we got it. We got it. A few camps was Feldafing in Fernwald. Feldafing, Fernwald. It was another camp. I don't remember the name right now. But the Greek wanted back the Jews, and the Greek Jews didn't want to go back to Greece. One night they came and they raided them, and they put them on a truck and they disappeared. And we never knew what happened to them. They took them back to Greece. They didn't want to go back to Greece. Like we didn't want to go back to Poland. When they did, you know, our where we were born. So we would say Stadtlos, that means stateless. But they put down anyway Poland. We did not want to be identified as Polish Jews. We just didn't like it what they did to us. Because they really helped the Germans. Because before the ghetto, the Germans did not know who's a Jew and who's a Polak. There's a nice explanation. I cannot think of it. My
No worries.
my
Take your time.
speech is terrible. And so they would point it out who's a Jew.
Mhm.
And we were not allowed to walk on the sidewalk. So we had to walk in the street.
Right. Do you have a question you want to ask about reflections?
Yeah, I have a question for you guys if you want to.
I don't think so. What is it? Oh. Do you want to ask? Ask. So,
Is there anything you'd like to tell future generations?
After all I went through, when I was in Auschwitz and sitting, bent over for hours and hours, and I used to say to myself, I'll do anything. If the war is over, I'll become a Christian. I don't want to suffer anymore and lose my family the way I lost my family, and I'll do anything. Soon the war ended. I wanted to be a Jew. I regret at times that I thought about it, and I would not give up my Judaism for anything. I love being Jewish. There's a history that we go back thousands of years, and I am very proud to be one of them. And I'm very happy that my children are Jewish and they're keeping a Jewish home.
Jewish pride. It's fantastic. And why did you come forward to tell your story?
Why?
Why did you come forward to tell your story?
This is off record.
Mm-hmm.
I had the discussion here with a woman that she's a Holocaust survivor. And she kept on saying she was there in any camp. She survived on her own. She was hidden, and she survived with her whole family. The only one that didn't survive is her father. And she was 90 years old, and she made a celebration for herself for 90 years, and she invited her whole family. Her whole family came from all over, and there were over 100 people in her family. And one time we had a discussion, and she said that I never went through what she went through, and she didn't know about my past. And one day she was sitting, this is here, and telling this story when she came here with her mother and her sisters and brothers, and she went to work, and her mother took care of her children. And I don't know what that did to me. Suddenly, Mengele was in my face, taking my mother away with the child, and she made a statement like this to me, and I got angry. I got so angry that she said that it doesn't matter what I went through, what she went through, that I have nothing to say because I didn't go through what she went through. She never been to a concentration camp. She was never in the Lodz ghetto. She never suffered the way I suffered. And I never told my children not much. My children went to Brooklyn College without by knowing to find out the history. And I thought that I spared them. And I never told my children anything, and neither did my husband. Had a very different past. He came from a different area, know that. So, you wouldn't believe it, that woke me up. Sounds crazy? It woke me up. And I said, I have to tell my story.
It's a true mitzvah that you're sharing your experience.
Thank you.
I don't know how much I did and what I did, and you know, I told the truth. There was nothing immeasurable.
Oh, you did a beautiful job. Should we ask just how it's affected her today?
Maybe
How it's what?
How it's affected her today? Do we have time?
I don't really need it because she kind of said right now, like that she spoke with her for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
what?
I was sorry. It was just a little sidebar. We just want to emphasize that you did an amazing job, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you. I think you're the future. You are the future. I am the past. I don't know what I accomplished. To be honest, when I think about it, I was worked out. I didn't want to go to work. When I came to this country, I had no English. And I started working in factories, and it was below me. I did not like it. And I'm going to tell you something which I never told anybody. I said to I was a nice looking girl, I have to say. I had a lot of opportunity to marry people that were established. And my husband was not established. And my aunt and uncle that I came to, they said, from all the boys, you pick a boy that has nothing. He has nothing. He has no education. He has no this, no money, no. I decided I don't care. I'm going to marry him. But I told him that I don't want to go to work in a factory. I never want to do that. So I didn't go. I didn't work, and nobody didn't know why. His family didn't like it. They thought I'm lazy, and I was criticized. Anyway, my husband, I have to tell you because he was an interesting man. My husband finished high school,
We're not
You're right.
rolling, right?
Erasmus High. He got a diploma. Then a few years later, he went to Brooklyn College, and he got 2 years of credit. The only thing he was very poor is in music. He didn't know his music. And then
Oh, you don't have to record anymore. Please stop.